This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
We had to start this war, you just said.
Had not given up their nuclear ambition.
We're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon.
Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Going to war with the Secretary of War. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. It was Secretary of War Pete Hegseth on Capitol Hill's grill today, facing tough questions on the war with Iran as the Pentagon looks for approval of a new budget as well as additional appropriations. Witness this exchange with a Democratic lawmaker.
We had to start this war, you just said, 60 days ago, because the nuclear weapon was an imminent threat. Now you're saying that it was completely obliterated?
They had not given up their nuclear ambitions, and they had a conventional shield of thousands
So
of...
Operation Midnight Hammer accomplished nothing of substance. It left us at exactly the same place we were before.
A Pentagon budget official places the cost of Operation Epic Fury to date at $25 billion. A big chunk of that is the loss of several aircraft. The war with Iran, one of the topics at the White House this afternoon, as President Trump spoke to reporters, sticking to his guns on keeping Tehran from ever joining the nuclear club.
We're not going to let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And we've knocked out their Navy, we've knocked out their Air Force, we've knocked out their anti-aircraft, everything, apparatus, everything they have, their radar, they have very little left.
Trump says he spoke to Russian President Vladimir Putin today and that a short-term ceasefire might be coming to that years-long invasion. He says Putin also told him he wants to see Iran kept from obtaining nuclear weapons. The Fed holding pat on interest rates today, with the war playing a role in that decision, too.
Developments in the Middle East are contributing to a high level of uncertainty about the economic outlook, and we will remain attentive to risks to both sides of our dual mandate.
Chairman Jerome Powell in likely his swan song in that role, and he says you won't be hearing much from him going forward.
I plan to keep a low profile as a governor. There's only ever one chair of the Federal Reserve Board. When Kevin Warsh is confirmed and sworn in, he will be that chair.
Powell frequently butted heads with Trump over lowering interest rates. Warsh, his heir apparent, has one Senate Banking Committee confirmation.
We need a Federal Reserve that is responsive to the needs of the American families more than the political will of whoever's in the White House.
Republican Senator Tim Scott, all GOP members voted yes, all committee Democrats nay against Warsh, saying he'll be a Trump yes man. Former FBI Director James Comey says he's still innocent after being indicted a second time by the Department of Justice. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche on Tuesday accusing Comey of an alleged threat to kill Trump. The charges stem from an image that Comey posted that showed seashells arranged on the beach to spell 8647. Comey remains defiant.
Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary. So let's go.
But Trump says the meaning behind Comey's seashell post was clear.
You ever see the movies? 86 him. The mobster says to one of his wonderful associates, 86 him. That means kill him.
This is the DOJ's second go-around with Comey. The first ended with the case being dismissed by a federal judge. Very busy day at the U.S. Supreme Court. Louisiana will have to redraw its congressional map after a Supreme Court ruling. NBC's Gary Grumbach reports the High Court struck down a map that included a second-majority black congressional district.
Justice Alito wrote the opinion of the court today in that 6-3 decision, and he said in part, quote, allowing race to play any part in government decision-making represents a departure from the constitutional rule that applies in almost every other context.
Observers say today's ruling could have a big impact on redistricting plans in other states. Another big ruling, justices allowing a group of faith-based crisis pregnancy centers in New Jersey to fight a subpoena from that state's Democratic Attorney General over their donor lists. And the High Court today also heard arguments on the Trump administration's effort to end temporary protected status for Haitians, extended repeatedly since the 2010 earthquake there. A Chinese Chinese national extradited to Houston, facing federal charges of computer intrusion during the COVID pandemic. Author and China expert Gordon Chang says the trial will probe whether China was trying to block a COVID cure.
This is important because COVID-19, of course, was an emergency worldwide. China was trying, I think, to prevent the world from developing effective measures.
Court papers show the co-conspirators targeted U.S.-based universities and researchers working on COVID vaccines and treatments. The acting U.S. attorney in the case says they want answers for crimes that struck at the heart of American science and security. And some health news for you. A quirky side effect from popular weight loss drugs. They seem to quiet down that food noise people who have trouble losing weight often have to deal with.
Many people who are prescribed GLP-1 say the medication quiets the ongoing thoughts and internal dialogues about what to eat, what not to eat, when to eat, and how to resist eating. They weren't expecting it. Neither were researchers. Scientists at Columbia University tell the New York Times that the drugs may temporarily lower a person's set point, the weight that their body naturally gravitates to. But once someone goes off a GLP-1, the set point seems to reset itself, and that can cause weight gain. I'm Daria Albinger.
All right, still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, we'll have a recap for you of our top regional stories and highlights from today's edition of Real Answers. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. By a single vote, 101 to 100, the Pennsylvania House has approved the so-called Fairness Act. Not a single Republican supported the measure, which prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. The bill's sponsor, Democrat Malcolm Kenyatta.
You have a system right now in Pennsylvania where you can marry the person that you love on Sunday. And then if you go to work and put up that photo of your wedding, somebody could still take away your employment.
I wouldn't even say it's a slippery slope. I think we're already at the bottom.
Republican Representative Mark Anderson says that so-called Fairness Act will open the door to boys playing in girls' sports and raises privacy issues as well.
HB 300 will now give uninhibited, equal access to biological boys or biological girls to use the bathrooms they want, to participate in whatever sports that they want.
Kenyatta claims the Fairness Act will make Pennsylvania the 25th state to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation.
We have to make sure that here in Pennsylvania that welcome is extended to everybody, not just something we verbalize, but that we put it in our actual law.
You can live your life any way that you want to live it, but your rights do not come before other people's rights.
Anderson fears that so-called Fairness Act discriminates against Christians and those who adhere to a biblical worldview about marriage and family. That measure now heads to the Pennsylvania State Senate for consideration. The search is still underway for plaques stolen from headstones at an Oneida County, New York cemetery. The bronze veterans plaques were taken from the Verona Cemetery in the town of Verona. Those plaques are used to honor military service, meaning the memorials are considered significant. Police are asking anyone who sees any plaques being sold through scrap yards or online marketplaces to contact them ASAP. The New York State budget a month late and counting. It has left school districts in limbo as far as what they can expect in state aid next year.
School districts really need one thing, and that's financial stability and certainty. And of course, that's difficult to get when you don't know how much state aid you're going to get.
Dave Albert with the New York State School Boards Association tells Spectrum News.
School districts really only have a few revenue sources that they can draw from. One is state aid, local property taxes, and the third is federal aid. So you're really talking about three sources of revenue. And when one of those sources is uncertain, it's very difficult for school boards and for school districts to plan out their budget for the following school year.
New York's 700 school districts will put their respective spending plans to residents for a vote on Tuesday, May 19th. Well, as spring eventually settles in here, Pennsylvania wildlife officials are noticing some familiar large neighbors making their return. Family Life's Brian Query explains.
Bears are emerging from hibernation, and police say sightings typically increase from April through mid-June. In one recent case, a doorbell camera captured a bear and 4 cubs strolling through a residential neighborhood mid-state. Officials say that's not unusual, especially in areas near wooded or mountainous terrain. Authorities stress that while bears may appear harmless, residents should never approach them. If you encounter one, avoid eye contact and slowly back away, especially if cubs are nearby. Residents are urged to secure garbage, remove bird feeders, and stay alert alert outdoors, particularly at night. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you for the bare facts there, Brian. You're listening to the 5 o'clock report on Family Life. Coping with the loss of a child. Welcome back to another edition of Real Answers, a regular Wednesday feature during the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues that matter to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Welcome back, Chris.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be back.
Good to have you, though I don't know if there's a tougher topic out there. Every parent's worst nightmare.
This is going to really tug on heartstrings, and it's bad enough if you have to cope with the loss of anybody, but when it's a child, it takes it to a whole new level. If this is you, I really, really pray that you really listen today, that you really take to heart what we're going to talk about, and just know that this is not an easy subject to discuss, let alone to listen to. It's good that we're addressing it here.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one important key I would think is that it's just not the kind of journey you want to try to walk through alone.
Definitely don't do it alone. And, families, when this happens, and it's usually very untimely, obviously, but it's very unexpected. And even if it isn't expected, like, for example, if there's a condition that is not either treatable or the prognosis is not good, you want to get that all-important support system around you. Don't do it alone. We live in a country that offers bereavement time and family leave time, so please make sure you're aware of what benefits you have through your employer or through whatever resources you have for taking time off, because this is something that you really got to pay attention to. You got to take the time to focus, and you need to take the time to address these processes so that you can get beyond the grief.
You touched on this a little bit before. Does how a child passed away play into the grief process at all?
In this situation, in this type of a topic we're talking about today, Mark, there's no cookie cutter, everybody goes through it this way. There's so mmany factors and variables that can go into how people grieve the loss of a child. I mean, there's just so much at play here. It could be your child has a terminal illness or a condition that will not allow them to live. And the reality is, while that might allow more time to prepare and to have certain pieces in place, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's any easier to go through. But there's other factors too that influence how a family is able to cope with the loss of a child. And that is, again, the strength of the marriage relationship or the strength of bonds with an extended family. Also, how strong of a church are you attending? I mean, that's a huge part of this too.
Oh, absolutely.
And we cannot forget those things. We absolutely cannot forget those things. And those components are really what are going to be in place to help carry you along. And you've heard me say this before, and probably almost every topic that we talk about is, how's your support system? Who are the folks in your life that are going to be there for you? When you can't stand, they're going to hold you up.
Trying to step into those shoes, difficult as it is, especially for believing parents, I can't imagine that they wouldn't first be asking the question we all ask, Lord, why did you allow this to happen?
That is a hard question to answer. And, look what I do for a living, Mark. People come to me and want to talk about stuff. And I say, ask me the hard questions. And I mean, honestly, we shouldn't shy away from the hard questions. Just because they ask doesn't mean you have to have the right answer, because sometimes there just aren't any, and that's one of them. Don't feel like you have to throw out scripture real quick. Sometimes throwing out scripture real quick, a lot of times, especially to other believers who already kind of know these scriptures, can look somewhat callous, maybe a little bit insensitive. Just be there and let them grieve, and be there. Let them grieve. Let them talk. I mean, if they're asking a question and you know the answer, great, answer it. But if you don't, especially with that big one, you just posed there, Mark, why is this happening? Why did this have to happen to my child? It's okay to say, I just don't know, but I'm here for you. And we have a loving God who has all this in control.
A challenging topic, to say the least. And Chris had more to share than we had time to share with you here. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
If your credit card is leading you into debt, it may be time to let it go. Hi, I'm Rob West with your Faith and Finance Minute. If you decide to cancel a card, here are a few wise steps to take. First, redeem all rewards, then pay off the balance in full. Next, review recent statements for auto debits like insurance or subscriptions and move them to another account. Also, think about your credit score. Closing a card can affect your utilization ratio and your oldest account history. If you're simply not using it, freezing the card until you need it may be a better option. Finally, check your credit report in about 30 days at annualcreditreport.com to confirm it closed properly. Remember, financial tools are meant to serve you, not master you, so make sure you steward them wisely. We can help you learn to manage your money according to biblical principles when you download the free FaithFi app. You'll find it on our website at faithfi.com.
Thank you, Mr. West. Finally, at 5, an A++ for several Mississippi middle school students who acted well beyond their years in an emergency. They were headed home when their school bus driver passed out and the bus became a runaway. But rather than panic, 5 students sprang into action as a team, telling WLOX.
She kind of sort of fell over, flopped over.
I saw that the bus was veering off, and then I grabbed the wheel.
So she passed out again, and then the bus started rolling forward. I didn't know it had air brakes, so whenever I clicked the brakes, it about threw me out the windshield, and then I called 911 when I got up there.
I saw her medication in her hand, and I saw her reaching for it. I knew that's what she needed.
The bus driver was eventually okay, says their proud principal.
They handled it exactly how they should have, and we're extremely proud of them.
Ditto for the grateful driver.
I couldn't ask for any better students than my students on my bus. I love every single one of them.
The school threw a pep rally to celebrate the young heroes, though one of them was refreshingly honest about the experience.
It was just adrenaline pumping.
Yeah. Tell me how you were feeling.
Scared, wanting to call my mom.
Sometimes you just want to call your mom. And that's the world we live in for Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.